Chapter What to Do. The whole city seemed to Margo like a big zoo or a jungle filled with terrible animals. She lay on her bed at 10 p.m. thinking about her life, and she saw rhinoceroses, hyenas, and creepy black birds. But wait, why do you perceive Melbourne this way? It's not like that. You probably see the astral world. In fact, this is not so. Lie down for 20 minutes, tune yourself in, and you will see that there are no rhinoceroses with terrible tusks, wild tangled lions, but there is a serene blue sky, energy emanating from your hands, as if from the depths of nothingness. And now anxiety and difference dissolve. A whole carload of thoughts floated away somewhere, that everything was meaningless, had no purpose, that the people around me were not hostile towards me, but on the contrary trying to help and participate. And the whole city shines, fills with brilliant fire, rejoices, smiles. What to do if you once realize that you don't know how to read a road map and never thought about it at all, neither for 8 years, long years living in Australia, in Melbourne. Yes, that's right, an electronic search engine, yes, but not map. This is madness, you think, but the height of irresponsibility and helplessness. A foreign country, foreign city, there is a lot of improbability, fear of life, poverty, loneliness. All her friends left her when she needed them so much. The situation she found herself in was very different from others. Today the day passed more or less, but in the morning I wanted to kill myself again. Or we fought together about how best to do it. Who are we? Maybe it's my alter ego. Whether to squeeze the glass with your body weight or throw a chair at the glass. But this glass is a package, the 25th floor, and most likely cannot be knocked out. And if so, then people will come to the sound, people will come running, then they will tie you up, the police or the inquiry in general, not going according to plan. And I would like to fly, but it's better to fly with your back down, not with your head or with your eyes closed. Then you won't know where or how. Space, wind, weightlessness lasts no more than 2 or 3 minutes. Oh my God, I no longer understand whether you sold your soul to the devil, rented it out to evil forces, or what it is. Dear God, do you know? And who else knows? Someone should know. Then now how it all began. I worked in a company, first gave birth to a son, and then I got tired of sitting at home, went to work, and as they say here, somewhere in the fast food. I worked there with young children. Then my still loving husband said, go study at secretarial classes, or as they say here, for receptionists. What are we in this world? Points in space, moving dolls driven by instincts, feelings, thoughts, or we are souls seeking meaning. The dark lake of the sphere seemed so thin, sharply piercing, invisible to the human eye. My heart stepped painfully. My heart, what is this? Yes, today was a normal cloudy day. In the morning, thoughts about death, no matter how, in what way. Thoughts that at the end of the day she needs to meet with Ben, whom she learned that he never loved her, and Robert, her ex-husband, didn't like her either. It was his conscious discretion to marry Kat, their second cousin. But Margo noticed that the more anxiety on her part, the more well everything went. Thoughts about how he would meet her with what gaze gradually faded into the background. So evening, they're driving in the car to a barbecue. They arrive. Kat and Bob are there, the brother of Margo's ex-husband and his wife. Somehow they all looked at her with interest when she was driving in the car. There is no better way to say how they started. Margo got out of the car and even hugged Ben and kissed him, her former father-in-law. He stood with a bottle of beer in his hand and hugged her too. I even asked if I wanted to drink some wine, to which she answered positively, but it never came to that. Then everyone went into the house and ate fatty meat as always. Guests Cassandra and Barry also arrived. She teaches sewing and design. He's a train driver, and so is Margot's husband. "Oh, my little dog, where have you been hiding in from me for an hour?" Cassandra spoke expressively and loudly, threading her wrinkled hand through the fine fur of the whippet. A dog breed has been created that it is incredibly popular among Australians. She stroked him and pulled his paw, which brought the dog unimaginable pleasure. At the same time, the host of the house, Mary, made satisfied grimaces. Margo felt some kind of tension being around them at first. She experienced this often, very excessively often. Maybe this is a social existability that she didn't suffer from before. It manifested itself later in life. It is unknown, but the fact remains a fact. She could experience negativity, some sounds, voices crawling into her head, and sometimes just when you are in a crowd, sometimes when communicating. Recently, I was sitting eating a Danish bun on the train station in an open coffee shop, and I stared at the guy sitting with a sports bag and thought, why are you here for what? Why are you sitting here and waiting for the weather by the sea or something? Tell me, what is in the mind for you, do you think so? Is it literally impossible to think about something else? But wait, my thoughts wander to some of my past. I become positive. I need to constantly catch myself on the kind of thought and try to transfer it to the positive, or at least stop thinking. Otherwise, this leads to a tragedy of thought. I'm increasingly carried away into musk and abomination, into distraction, but I can't do this. I have to hold on. I don't fade into oblivion. Chapter background. Margo came to Australia in 2002. After leaving Moscow and a home in Kotovsk, she directed her steps here. "What do I have to lose?" she once said, standing on one of the Moscow streets and thinking about her life. "Well, I'll go have a look and leave in the end. Neither steak nor... let's give it a go. I work as a secretary assistant in Revlon Cosmetics. Why not to go? Where should I go? Moreover, I want a child already at such a childbearing age." This was what was sitting in her head. This was what was eating away at her entire mind. All her grey matter, all the convulsions of her brain. "Well then, take me with the silver bean of the plane." And then she is met by the earth and a man with a video camera, who later becomes her husband, the father of her son, and away we go. First with the father-in-law and mother-in-law, then in the house which he bought before his marriage. Her brain is tired. It is empty. Even a feeling of relief came. "I'm going to take a shower and sleep. I'm going to the astral plane, my dear sweet souls." At first everything was like a dream and calm. They lived with his parents in a quiet place, almost a village. They had a lot of land, almost 12 acres, just undeveloped land covered with grass, trees, and 3 ponds. The mini park is only uncultivated. Everyone greeted her normally except for her husband's dad. He was friendly on the surface, but when he learned that Margo is pregnant a month later, he turned around and walked into the other room unhappy. It was clear that you couldn't expect a normal attitude from him. I liked the place where they lived. The bedroom window looked out onto a pond where wild ducks swam from time to time. Margo was constantly feeling nauseous, wanted to sleep, and showed all the signs of pregnancy, although at first everyone thought it was a cold flu or some disease, because she had a fever. But after going through all the trimesters, she finally gave birth to a beautiful blue-eyed boy. Nikki's first year of life was the most wonderful. Margo got up 3 or 4 times a night to see the baby in the first 2 months, until she was so exhausted that she felt like death. Huge circles under her eyes reflected her great care and affection for the child. On another visit to the medical sister was advised to give the boy a pacifier. After that, she slept like an angel all night without waking up, sleeping like a truly beautiful baby's sleep. Marie's mother-in-law treated her and the child well. At first, Margo was afraid of her and didn't trust her, because she had been using strong medications for almost 20 years. When she was 32 years old, she worked as a nurse in a hospital, and while lifting a patient, he fell on her and broke her lower spine. Subsequently, 5 operations were performed. And during the very first one, the surgeon was drunk and was thrown out of the operating theatre. This was in the 80s, when Australia was still at a low stage of industrialization and medical development. They didn't particularly find fault, unlike nowadays. Insurance, courts, patients have many rights. When my mother-in-law went to give birth, she didn't go through school for mothers and fathers, and no lessons on explaining and demonstrating childbirth. Nothing, just like in Russia at the same time. So the son grew up by the day. Margo cooked the food, the husband came home, rejoiced at the family, carrying a fresh little one in his arms. My mother-in-law scared me with her stories. "Oh, milk poured out of my chest," she joyfully and shamelessly declared at one of the family gatherings, at a barbecue. "Oh, it's probably from my grandson," the father-in-law laughed. Margo started shaking all over when she imagined how she would breastfeed Nikki secretly from her, especially after several pain pills or morphine injections which she was prescribed as a painkiller. And one day, smiling, she told the story that when she woke up at night, she saw a bright pink light flooding hall. She stood up, walked towards, and saw that the whole room was flooded with this light. "It's probably a UFO," she chirped, "and they flew to visit me. I am the chosen one." After that, Margo finally lost the desire to communicate with her, but it didn't last long. Somewhere after 10 months of babysitting, she decided she had enough and wanted variety and activity. Oh, this diversity! I wish I knew what it would lead to in the future, in 5 or 6 years. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So the work began in fast food, not half the rate. Regular fast food to 20 minutes from home. "Hello," the manager said, leading her to the kitchen. In a niche kitchen, there were several young guys under 20 standing. Definitely taking the buns, putting the patty in there, adding cheese and seasoning. Chapter the beginning of the end. When a person is stressed, he is confused. When a person is subject to hyperstress, he begins to do things that has never done before, and then he wants to quickly forget about what happened. A month has passed since he said that he didn't want to live with her anymore. Margo, too, had long been tired of constantly trying to reason with her husband, a spendthrift who's constantly kept the family on the edge of financial abuse. And there was no satisfaction in intimacy either. In the end, years lived without orgasm make themselves felt. They had already had big fights 4 times, and finally this was the last one. The heavy bird of stress flapped its wing and took off, and took the body in an unknown direction. The story of Nigerian love deception is over. The hubby managed to start a correspondence with what he thought was a woman, but it turned out that she was an ordinary scammer. This kind of scammers who extracted money from lonely men and women were quite common. They find a victim and let's extract money from people with a weak psyche, which is what Margot's husband was. How many tears were shed? How many inconsolable nights were spent on the verge of a breakdown? And all because of what? Because of a group of professional swindlers arrived at the right time. Just when the hanging moment of their relationship almost cracked, the railings crunched and the thinnest wires of love rusted. Do you recognize this? I think we all are susceptible to this condition. At first we love madly, blowing away specks of dust from each other. Then we plunge into a whirlpool of family life, forgetting about everything. And suddenly in a flash, waking up from the sleep of worries and vanity, we understand that the vessel of love and patience has dried up and huge voids will fill the soul. And so, having announced that he was breaking up with her when she returned from a trip to India, he calmly continued to write a letter to Caroline Winchester before her eyes and right in front of her. What a sharp-sounding Winchester, piercing and rather false, who in our time can bear such a surname except a porn star or a brand name for clothing or consumer goods. Margo was beside herself. Stop, what are you doing? Do you even know who this woman is? How long have you been corresponding? Just a month? That's all? Have you really decided everything? Are you really ready to destroy everything that has been gained all of these 8 years? Yes, I don't care, and I don't want to discuss this with you. There is glass and a reflection of cold in the eyes, complete clouding of consciousness. When she arrived from India, where she ended up due stress and to see her aunt, who was there at that time, Margo had neither work nor money. She studied for half a year in initial accounting courses. At that time, the stress had just begun to completely settle into her. Despite the fact that she passed all the exams quite successfully, she was unable to continue this course further as originally planned. When you leave one person and return to another, it's very difficult how to rebuild and adapt to this. All this puts a lot of pressure on the subcortex in our brain, a complete feeling of powerlessness, fear, hopelessness. In general, the feeling of a downed pilot with an engine damaged by the Messerschmitts. In some unconscious way, the brain didn't let it fall and break completely. Margo started looking for a lawyer, googled a lot in one day, and made a bunch of lists, called about 20 law firms, and they all boiled down to the same answer. You will get as much as you invested. It seems there is no money in the trust. The court doesn't care that your husband or you had an extramarital relationships. The child can remain as with you. It's the same with your husband. Your matter is complicated by the fact that you have a common child, etc., etc. To be honest, Margo was upset by this state of affairs and she completely gave up. She went to work every day like a robot. And now this work found her, and how this work found her here is unknown. Coming from India and being dumbfounded leads to the fact that for some time I didn't care what to do, and she began delivering newspapers for a nominal fee, where she stayed for a week.